Hi, I'm Eleanor Meyerhofer, a native Californian designer and digital strategist. In October of 1999, a few years after graduating from design school, I flew from San Francisco to Munich with a fistful of Deutschmarks, a dial-up connection, and an extremely vague plan. 20 plus years later, after a 10-year stint at a global agency, freelancing, and launching 2 online businesses, I'm still here. Now I'm talking to other expat business owners to share knowledge, stories, and inspiration for other non-Germans running businesses in Germany. I will go ahead and start the interview with the question I ask everybody, which is, who are you, where are you from originally, and the 2-minute story of how you ended up in Germany.
Yeah. So my name's Rachel Wright. Originally, I'm from the East Coast of the United States. I'm from Connecticut. Should also add, so I'm an events designer and coordinator here based in Berlin. And yeah, how I got to be here, I suppose, starts back in 2008. So I came over as a university student. Originally, the idea was really to spend a semester here, learn a bit of German that I could tack onto my resume for grad school, and then head right on back and, continue on to a PhD. When I got to Berlin, I really didn't have many expectations, but I really did, I would say, fall in love with the city. I really loved Europe. Originally, I seen myself kind of going more to Paris, but I loved the creative energy here. I loved, yeah, just like how close, I suppose, like history felt. Um, and yeah, just the people as well, like in a way that I really wasn't expecting. And so from there, I went on to complete a master's in comparative literature and started a career more in communication. So in the beginning, it was in public relations, doing work for the European Commission. From there, landed or went over to tech, so over to Zalando, like most folks do here in Berlin. Originally in branding and marketing, and then made an internal switch over into people and organization, and got really interested just like in the way that folks experience work, what that journey is like. However, I'd always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to have my own business and create something of my own. And luckily at Zalando, I got a lot of exposure to design thinking. And so in
Mm-hmm.
2019, took design thinking, this methodology, and a lot of books that I read along the way, left corporate and really with the idea of starting in a business that would help people connect and celebrate. And so use design thinking to explore customer problems, iterate different value propositions, and eventually launched what was my first business already. This was an event coordination service, B2C, based here in Berlin. Started out with a curated picnic and then made a pivot to something more like an event agency. And from there, decided to connect back to the B2B clients that I used to well in HR. And yeah, since then, since 2023, have been working mostly with clients from the tech industry, so international tech scale-ups, helping them with their team events and also on-site and off-site.
Okay, so that last part was also their offsites.
Yeah, so primarily like the larger events that they have. So they have, budget for larger team events in the summer and the winter. And then also have budget for on-site, it's called, when you kind of pull everyone from a distributed office into one location. Those are also larger events that they do.
Okay. All right. So a lot of stuff I want to go deeper into. So the first part I'm curious about is, or just maybe want to confirm, is your immigration story, which so went, I guess, assume on a student visa and then just went straight into employment here. Or what okay, you're rolling your eyes. So it wasn't that
No,
seamless.
it's definitely not rolling the eyes. I like,
Not
in
rolling eyes, but
retrospect, now it seems like very seamless. At the time, it didn't feel that way. So
yeah.
I knew like when I was young, like a teenager, like it was always been a dream of mine to move to Europe. And I think studying abroad, I'd already gone on vacation to Europe before that. So my mother works for the airlines, and we were really lucky to be able to do, vacations in Europe before I was in university. So I had like a taste, and I knew I wanted more. And then as an exchange student, yeah, originally here I was here on a student visa. When that came to the end, like I knew I wanted to stay, so I was looking for ways, to make that happen. And in the very beginning, I was teaching English. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was able to string together enough English teaching contracts to be able to get a visa. And in the very beginning, it was also very difficult to do this in Berlin. So I actually moved from Berlin to Hamburg, like really just to set myself up as like an English teacher. And once I had enough experience, like I moved back.
Okay. Why was it difficult in Berlin?
There were back in 2008, 9, there were already like a lot of English speakers here. So I think the
Yeah.
bar was just a bit higher. Um, I have to say, like, it was really good that I did go to Hamburg because there were there was Airbus there, and Airbus ended up being yeah, one of the
Oh.
places where I taught English quite a bit. It was
Mhm.
so the beginning of like the financial crisis.
Mhm.
Um, so I think while a lot of work was drying up, the school I was teaching for primarily had like I think a really big contract with Airbus.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that tided me over for the financial crisis, which was really nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's funny whenever I go to Berlin, I'm like, "Does anybody here speak German?" You hear so much English in the streets. It's amazing. Okay, so but then so I'm assuming I didn't come here as a student, but I was here for a year before I got a corporate job, and that, like, really greased the wheels of everything. So then I'm assuming was it something like you were able to, like, get extended work permits, like, Arbeitsgenehmigungen, and then at some point you got your like, I think after 5 years, I got my unbefristet Aufenthaltserlaubnis, like, and then you got one of those.
Yeah, it was a lot of figuring it out, like a lot of talking to other expats who were here. I mean, this is like also like, before ChatGPT, so you had to like search
Right.
the internet and like find, what is it that I need for this,
Yeah.
what is it that I need for this like appointment. It was also like before smartphone, so you had like your little
Yeah.
Nokia phone, and had
Right.
to like, find your way around. And, in the very beginning, like I think I had like a series of like 3 months like visas, and each one it was kind
Yeah.
of like come back and get this, but yeah, I was like determined and made it work. And in parallel, at the very beginning, I had a visa that was really only for teaching English. And along that time, like I started my master's degree in comparative law at the Fire University. And it's so funny, like I hadn't even finished the degree, and it was just like a stroke of luck, I think. Like on one of my visa renewal appointments, I went there, and the woman, I still remember, she had this like smiley face in the O of her name, and I was like, oh, like, it's gonna be good. And at the end, she was just like, I've just given you an unlimited working visa. And it was like really, it was like my ticket because I was like, oh, great, And at that point, I loved teaching English and started like a traineeship in PR, which, yeah, was really a big step, I guess.
Okay, yeah. So just, another point for persevering and
Yeah,
looking
totally.
out at the Ausländerbehörde, because I had a really nice lady too who just kept saying, "Here's 3 months, either get married or get a job. Here's another 3 months." It was, like, nuts, and I think that was one day I was there when her substitute was in who was not like that at all. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the luck of the draw. Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward. So then had all these corporate roles and everything, and the whole visa thing is at that point not an issue. Um, how did you get the idea for was Celebretti the first incarnation of your business?
It was,
Yeah.
yeah. Before that, I had done like a couple like dinner pop-ups with a friend. And I
Mhm.
think like in retrospect, like I had always been really interested in like how people come together in celebrations, like
Mhm.
loved having people over. And so, yeah, when it came to starting a business, like that was really my starting point.
Okay. And how did you like kind of do it for a long time as a side hustle? Did you do Gründungszuschuss? Did you like what was the process of transitioning out of a secure corporate job to like starting your own thing?
Oh, Eleanor, I wish there had been one. Like,
Okay.
like I think like looking back, yeah, I was like pretty naive, I would
Mhm,
say. Also just like when it came to starting a business, like I remember telling someone that it would just like take 3 months and like, I would be, have this in place. I really
mhm,
didn't know what I didn't know. Um, what I did have, like I had, I think like at that point, like 8 years of being a full-time employee. And of course, I've been paying into the system. And so when I decided to leave my job, like I had a year of unemployment benefits and
mhm.
really just like used that as like my funding. So I think like I've got a year. What I also had was, yeah, this training in design thinking. And so like I knew the direction I wanted to go in, but like I didn't have clients, like I didn't have, a website. I didn't have a business. I really didn't have anything. Like, so it was really starting with, okay, like this is what I do have. Like I have like this passion, like I've got experience in HR and like a network there. And yeah, I've got this like basis in design thinking. So I really started out with, who could my customers potentially be and like map them out B2B and B2C,
Mhm.
and like within B2B even thought of like different segmentations, who is setting up yeah, events, so this could be like an internal event team, maybe at a company like Zalando. It could also be other event planners, map that out, and then like went to my network and started putting people like next to those segmentation, put together like an interview list, and then really, for B2C, like literally hit the streets and like was walking up to strangers and saying like, hey, can I ask you about how you celebrate,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and even there, what I would say is like more people will say yes to that question than you think.
Yeah.
And that really helped me weed out who wasn't my customer. Doesn't take long. You ask a couple 18-year-olds how much you spend on your parties, and everything goes to booze, and so you figure like, yeah, this isn't a really good customer to serve. Whereas
Mhm,
I did discover like, women between the ages of like 35, like maybe 50, do organize quite a few parties at home
mhm,
and at work, uh, put quite a lot of work into them, have money to spend, don't have a lot of time. So you start to see like, here's a potential customer, a problem I could solve. From there, once I had the customer problem, a better understanding there, I started to think about different value propositions. The first one was this idea of like delivering cakes, thinking like, okay, cake is a central part of the celebration. It's hard for people to get these. Maybe this could be like a referendo for cake.
mhm,
And then from there, connected with a local bakery and was like doing their deliveries for like a month
mhm,
on bike, and figured out just like, okay, there's not as much as demand for this. It's really difficult. I don't think this is a good place to go. And
mhm,
you can kind of like check that one off and think like, okay, back to the drawing board. What did the interview say? If I look over at B2C, like there's also a problem around convenience. And so
mhm,
another idea I had was putting a celebration in a box.
mhm,
And for this one, by this time, like I had a couple other people who I had like convinced to come on board and like work on this idea with me. And I went into a Facebook chat, a family Facebook chat, and basically, or a Facebook group, and like dropped the idea. I was like, hey, like I'm selling celebrations in a box. You can choose the theme for your child's next birthday party, and you will get everything that you need for this party in a box. And like people just started engaging like with this thread. Like I think I had like 100 comments on it. Started getting like the first orders like for this like product that didn't even exist, like
mhm,
from the thread. And in the meantime, I just like someone would be like, I want a mermaid box, so I would go like onto Amazon, scope it out, send them like a couple slides and it's like, this is your box, this is the price, like, do you want it? And like started getting orders. And then like with the team, we were thinking like, okay, like this could potentially be a product. Let's actually see what the patterns are, what people want. And productize it. And so we did that. And by this time we were running into like, okay, convenience is important, but actually getting to choose like what's in the box is also really important.
Hmm.
We can either like double down and make this like really good, or you can decide to like maybe go in a different direction, take what we learned and think about this again. And so like that's what we did the second. Um, this is where I think like the third value proposition came in that really opened things up. And for this, the idea was like you could go to a website and get like basically pick and choose the things that you would want for a celebration and get them. So it was like a platform idea, but convenient, but like getting to pick and choose. And so here I connected with someone who does like sets up Facebook ads, and I asked her like, can you help me set up a Facebook ad? So I'm gonna have like a picture of the value proposition. So get everything you need for your wedding, get an idea for your wedding and everything you need to put it together, and set those up for different celebration use cases. So I had one for weddings, I had one for birthday parties, I had one for your child's birthday party. We ran these ads in the major German cities. So I think it was like, Berlin, Hamburg, Düsseldorf, Cologne. I was also open to the idea of going back to the States for this. So we ran them in Boston, New York, and
Hmm.
Cisco as well. And all of the ads were linked up to a type form. So you would land on the type form thinking, I'm giving this person information so that I can get the idea and everything I need to put my party together. After you hit submit, you landed on a page that was like, this isn't ready yet, but here's a blog post that fits your use case. Um, so people did get something in the end, but like what we really got was an indication of, are people actually interested in this value proposition? If so, like where is the interest coming from? Is it coming from Germany? Is it coming from the States? Which celebrations are people most interested in getting help with? And like what kind of help do they want to get? And from this, like we used like all of the learnings we got there. Actually, Berlin came out quite well, so it was like, okay, cool, can stay put. And rolled out the first actual service, which was called Picnic in the Park. So this was
Hmm.
like around COVID, and the idea was we'll roll out one kind of celebration you can book. It's going to be a picnic in the park, and then you can decide like what you want to like book with it. So you could get like a picnic basket, you could get decor, you could get entertainment, and really use this to actually start getting first customers and understanding people more. Um, yeah, and at this point it was like August. Did picnic in the park for a summer, and realized I was like, all right, this is like a seasonal business, but it's not full year. And so at that point, like, did go back into like full time work and ran picnic in the park in parallel to like my full time job for 2021, 2022. Um, evolving it, moving the price point up, and really starting to get like more B2B customers. And then
Hmm.
in 2023, this is when I decided to pivot, like away from the picnic and more into the agency setup, and then focusing really just like on B2B customers.
That's fascinating. Like the ads. And I had to laugh when you were saying mermaid in a box because I did a mermaid party for my
Yeah,
8-year-old this year. And I did end up just like going through Amazon and like just,
yeah.
with her. Um, but thinking I would have bought a mermaid in a box party. Um, so and the picnic in the park, that was like a B2C offering. And would you like select the park or you'd send them a box or you'd like be there setting things up? Like what were you doing?
We like we set everything up, and I have to say, like in the very beginning, like the first picnic in the park that I sold, like it, it was pretty cheap, so there was that. But like the week before, I was like still asking myself, I was like, what, how does this work? What did it look like? We had used like some stock pictures to sell it. And so I think by keeping the price point pretty low, like people were forgiving. It was also during COVID. I think it was a great time to start this just because
Yeah.
everyone was so hungry to get together. Like
Yeah.
expectations were also low. There wasn't a lot of competition, so good time. Mm, but yeah, it was really these like low tables that I painted. They were pallets actually, so
Mhm.
painted pallets. And then they were set with like a table runner and real, plates and cutlery. And then people could book like a picnic that would go on top. There were like carpets and like cushions that were
Hmm.
part of it. So it felt like definitely like a more elevated way of like having a picnic. And like as like the summers like progressed, like picnic in the park got fancier, so like the
Hmm.
palettes got nicer. You got like these like velveteen cushions, like aesthetically it just looked a lot more put together. I added like this B&O wireless speaker, like they thought so,
Hmm.
so starting to like program with it and yeah, push the price up as well. So it definitely came together more as I
It's a lot
iterated.
of work. So,
It was a lot of
yeah,
work.
you
Yeah.
have to have a, like, decent margin. Do you have, like, a truck? Like, how would you get all this stuff there?
I had, so like you asked like in the beginning, people could choose like whatever park they wanted to have this in
Mhm,
Berlin. So it was a
mhm.
lot of like traveling
Oh
around
my
from park to park.
god. With
Um,
pallets?
yeah, like with the palette, uh, yeah, and then like I don't have a truck, so I would like find drivers like off of eBay Kleinanzeiger and
Okay.
like get someone to come pick me up at the storage compartment, move everything in, bring me to the park, and then like I would set it up, and then I would come back like hours later, like sometimes with a different transportation
Yeah.
person from eBay Kleinanzeiger, move it all back to storage. Operationally, like it was a mess, but yeah, it did work.
But, kudos. I mean, also for experimenting and, like, figuring it all out and doing it. That is amazing. So, okay, so you're doing the picnic in the park, and then was it called Celebretti then, or were you still just picnic in the park? So you were Celebretti at that point?
Yeah, so the company's name was Already, and after the first season, like when I noticed, I would say like product market fit was like really like, the order form filling up very easily. I
Mhm.
ran a couple, like again, like an ad like on Facebook and Instagram. Also like just like reached out to everyone I knew like on LinkedIn at the time. I think I
Yeah.
sent like 1,000 like messages out just like to get those first orders. But then after that, like, with getting repeat customers like summer after summer, and started operationally like condensing things. So like the second year, like you could only book one park, which was like
Mhm. Yeah,
like Friedrichshain. And so like that made things a lot easier too.
easier. Okay. So let's talk about the pivot. Now you're the right site. Is that the correct name of your
Yeah,
business? So tell me about that.
yeah, sure. So I think like the idea to pivot came from, I think, like last year. So last year it was still Celebretti. It was operating as an events agency. And so the model was that I would find a client. So usually like from my network within HR, basically like sell them the entire event. So, like budget for a team event for around like 300 people could be, somewhere between, 50 to 80,000 euro.
Mhm.
And so like I would take a margin off of that, which was usually like around like 10 to 15%. So it wasn't like great. And I was like also the one that was like on the hook for paying like all of the partners.
Mhm.
So like just in terms of like how it was set up, like you can imagine like it was like a bit stressful.
And then they'd
And
reimburse you after the event?
no, so I would charge like 50% ahead and then
Okay.
50% after.
Okay.
So in terms of like cash flow, like it works, but like yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's like quite stressful.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if the client does pay like later, like
Yeah.
you still want to be able to pay your partners on time, like to maintain a
Yeah.
reputation. So like after the first year, like there were just like parts of it that really weren't working for me, and so I made the decision like earlier this year, like first that like I wanted to dissolve already and like the UG that I had founded. That was what I really knew. And after that, like I was thinking is like, okay, like, am I going to continue doing events? And like, if so, like, what does this look like for me? I also like went back in house like at this point, like, and got like a part time job, like to give myself like a bit of buffer to like start
Hmm.
thinking, designing, and not feel like I need to figure this out immediately, you know?
Not under duress.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think good decisions don't come from being under, well, sometimes they do, but I don't know. I didn't want to do that. And so, yeah, I started thinking about like what were the projects that I really enjoyed doing, what are the things that I do well, and basically came down to event design, still the coordination, which generally like pays the bills, and moderation. And then, yeah, I had this like idea for a website which would be like really just like kind of around me and not around a company per se. Like I realized, kind of like look through my network and like ask myself like, who am I envious of? Like
Hmm.
I find that to be like a useful question, and
Yes.
realized like the people that I was like envious of were solo operators that had like a really strong brand, that had like a really strong offer, and yeah, didn't have like a huge team, and like knew that like I wanted more of that. And so yeah, with the right site, like really made myself like the person that you're working with. And so
Hmm.
like I come in as a designer, I come in as a coordinator and offer an an integrated service, but also like work with a lot of partners in the background.
Hmm.
However, like I bill for like my time, like my services, and I connect the partners directly to the client. And so I don't have to basically own, the entire budget anymore as I did before. So it feels a lot lighter for me.
Okay, so all you don't subcontract people. They
I don't,
you
yeah,
you organize and then they send their bills to the client.
exactly.
So, okay, cool. So tell me about some of the events you design and your ethos behind
Yeah, I mean, so I think like the way that my work has been evolving, so I think like, I mean, of course, like as I've like described to you, like it's been an evolution and work still is. So it's always kind of thinking about what do I have that's like new to say when it comes to event design and event coordination? What do I really believe? And I think, and what do my customers want, of course, which is really
Mhm,
important. And getting to know like my customers better and understanding like the problems that they have and like what they want to solve. Uh, Within the B2B level, my customers tend to be workplace experience professionals and sometimes HR. And what they really want is to connect their teams in new ways, to delight teams, to help people feel like more connected at the workplace.
mhm,
So that, in part they do come back to the office from time to time, but they really want to. It's also, for HR, of course, like retention, people that have fun at work, tend to be more engaged. They tend to stay for a longer period of time. So these are the kinds of problems that I'm helping them to solve with team events.
mhm,
And these days, like in the background, I've become like a lot more interested in the design component. So looking at game design, also looking more at industrial design, service design, and thinking what are things that I can learn as an event designer from these different areas. And I think one place is definitely with game design and thinking of an event as more of an experience. So an experience that really starts from the time that an invitation goes out for an event to how you communicate it in the lead up. So then, of course, the experience that someone has when they come to the location, they see it for the first time, and then thinking like, what are things that are happening on site that help me help my client intentionally bring people together, and also be able to like measure the connection that happens at an event. So this is the way it's changed. The customers that I have now still come from like tech companies, primarily. So, for example, Remerge, I just helped them with their summer event this year. I'm also working with Bold, so companies like this, and more trying to bring the experience design component into my work. So yeah, helping them, of course, like connect with the location that they need. But once we have the location, you know, thinking about like what could be a theme for this event, is the team really into like dressing up and doing games? And if so, like what is the experience that we can bring to life at the event, maybe through a game, that brings people together?
I appreciate how deliberate and intentional you are. And that's reminding me of a great post of yours that I saw on LinkedIn where you have a new outfit for the kind of persona you're inhabiting.
Yeah,
That was great and very, it's a great idea. You want to just remind people what you did? Because,
yeah, sure. I mean, I think, like I said in the post, this was really something that helped me. I guess like back in 2020, like when I made this decision to leave my corporate job and start creating a business. And, then the I think we discussed, like I really didn't have any clue what I was doing. And I listened to this podcast and it was about alter egos. And it
hmm
was about, stars like Beyonce and I think like
hmm
Nicki Minaj does this, when they want to tap into a different dimension of themselves or, move into an identity that feels a bit foreign, they use alter egos. And like part of this is how you dress. And I think since then, like I've learned that like there's also behavioral psychology to like back this up. And essentially it's, thinking about like what the identity is that you want to inhabit and like how does
hmm
a person present themselves. So how do they actually get dressed? And almost like
hmm
choosing, a costume or a uniform for yourself that helps you really connect with that new identity. And
hmm
so back when I was like starting off and it was kind of like entrepreneurial Rachel and I was thinking like, how does the entrepreneurial me get dressed? And I had just like been in San Francisco and seen, everyone with their fancy zip ups, that had like the name of their tech companies on it. And it just felt like really, yeah, entrepreneurial for me. And so for like, like at least like a couple months in the beginning, I wore this zip up, this ski zip up that like my sister had given me for Christmas every day, like with my running shoes and like my Garmin watch, and it just kind of
Yeah.
felt like very San Francisco to me, and yeah, it just kind of helped me tap into like the founder version of myself that like
uh
felt nothing like me at the moment,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
really a steep learning curve. And now, like, I've been thinking more about, yeah, this design component to events and seeing myself more as a designer and also positioning myself like more as an event designer and yeah, thinking more like how do other designers like maybe get dressed? How do I, what is my uniform as a designer? So that's what that
Mhm.
was all about.
I love that. That is a great way to approach it. Um, you alluded to this, but uh, I'm always fascinated, like on this B2C, B2B dimension, because obviously, if you work more B2B, it's more lucrative and it's easier, well, quote unquote, easier to get a bunch of bigger clients and have bigger contracts. So like lots of little clients with, maybe not big budgets. So you beyond like tapping your network, and maybe that's all it was, but like how did you build your client base of corporate clients?
Yeah, I think like when I first decided I was gonna go for this like more B2B
Mhm,
approach, all of like my first customers came from my immediate network. So like
mhm,
folks that I had like worked with when I was back at Zalando. So it
mhm.
had been a couple years and like I had worked like in the HR department and like all of those team members had like since gone on to like work at different companies. And so like in that way, I got projects at Mondu, at Go Student, I'm trying to think of maybe other first clients were Moss, for example. Lingoda was like a really important one. That was like the very first one
Mhm.
working on this new model. So it was like super exciting. Um, yeah, and so like having those logos, of course, that I could put on the website helped
Right.
me build trust. Also helped me understand a lot better, like in terms of like what these first customers needed and what I could provide, and start creating a service based on that.
And the HR people in there, are they the buying point?
Yeah, so usually it's a bit different, and this is also something I had to like learn, I would say, like in the first
Mhm,
year especially, like who was my customer.
mhm,
Um, the initial projects like all came from HR contacts that I had. And, by that time, the folks that I knew at Zalando had gone on to be like head of people and culture, VP people and culture, and so also had like more control over the budget. And
Mm-hmm.
so they were the ones that needed to organize like a team event. They had already worked with me, so the trust was there, so we were able to get going. As I started like reaching out and building my network, like I saw like, okay, it's not, sometimes it's like, VP of people and culture, but a lot of times like these events with workplace experience, especially as companies get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point started creating, yeah, marketing, so a lot over like LinkedIn, but also with networking events that
Mm.
spoke more to these groups.
Okay, I didn't even realize like workplace experience was a department. I've been
Yeah.
out of corporate life for well over 15 years now. Um, okay, so that is very interesting. And that, I mean, is it fair to basically say like it wouldn't have been possible without that existing network?
Oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, I guess it might have been possible, but it would have been a lot harder.
Harder. And did you find, do you have like any competitors? Like, or were people like, oh, so glad you're here, or like, we already use this person for that?
Yeah, there are definitely like other agencies here in Berlin that
Mhm.
coordinate events. I would say like probably like my biggest competitor is like teams doing it themselves, so like the DIY approach.
Okay,
And
interesting.
I think like this has been something also that led me down this like more experience design oriented route.
Mhm.
You probably, I mean, I guess like other freelancers or solo operators know this, like, if you're on this like commodity level and people are really just like comparing you to someone
Yeah.
else based on price, like that's not a great place to be. And so like really thinking for myself, like what makes working with me different than like working with this agency? And like this is like still something that's very much like I don't want to say like in flux, but like a work in progress. So like I do think for myself, like it's experience design, it's game design, that things that like I am like innately just so curious about and really think that like there's like a great fit there and not
Yeah.
something that I see a lot of people doing. So
Mhm.
yeah, moving more in that direction.
Yeah, I was just smiling because I feel like positioning, you're never finished positioning. Like,
No.
it doesn't matter, clients, myself, everybody, it's like, nobody's like, "Yep, figured it out, it's done, never have to think about my XY statement again." It's,
Yeah.
like, always a work in progress, which is that's fine, that's how it is, but always sort of reaffirming to hear
Yeah.
it's the case for everybody. Okay, yeah, I this is like a kind of random question, and I talked about it before we, like, started officially recording, but you have this great resource on your site, which is this Berlin event location, and you posted it on LinkedIn, and I actually did a workshop earlier this year, and I sort of had the idea, but then I just realized I wasn't gonna have time, it was gonna be too stressful, but to try and meet some of my clients up there, and I go to Berlin, but I have no idea about the places, so I used, like, it was just I think it's like an embedded Notion database
Yeah, it's an
of just, like,
Airtable.
all the locations and where to go, and I was like, "This is amazing," and do you ever think about, well, I guess if you're B2B, you don't need this kind of thing, but I was like, "Why? She just has this on her site out here for free." It's, like, not a lead magnet or anything. What was the thinking behind putting that on your site?
I definitely did. It's funny because like originally it was gated. It was like
Mhm.
gated for a minute, like, for like a week. Um, and then I was thinking, I was like, yeah, I mean, like a lot of work would go into like creating that list. So it's great to hear it's valuable. Um, and I was thinking like I could put this up there and like get email addresses. Um, the one thought I had was like, it was like a quote from someone and it was, not everyone knows what you know.
Yeah.
Right? And I was thinking, I was like, you know, uh, I I've already provided value like in other ways, and like if someone gives me their email address and they see this like resource, like they'll definitely know, like, oh wow, like Rachel knows a lot. She's got like a network there. But I was thinking, like, maybe like what will make this even more valuable for me is like as something that it's almost like a door opener. So like
Hmm.
I use it a lot like in my outbound.
Mm.
After like I connect with someone on LinkedIn, I send them an email or a message and I'm like, hey, great to be connected. Like I just want to let you know about this great resource like I've got on my website. Here it is, I dropped the link. So it's like me giving them something and then they tell me like, oh wow, like this is great. Like I'm bookmarking it. And it's like, yeah, that's great to know. But it also like gets them over to my website,
Hmm.
where, hopefully they'll find out a bit more about me, about what I do. They'll see like the stories that I have from like other customers that I work with. And so it was more like a strategic decision that it was, yeah, more valuable for me to have something to give people, like a door opener, and like a better way for me to get people like on my website. And especially like because I don't give the Airtable link away. Like if you want to visit
Hmm.
that list, like you need to go to the website to see it. And so my thought was like, okay, if someone bookmarks this, then they have my website bookmarked, and then like
Right.
when they start thinking about events, like they land with me.
What I also like about it, it's like, tell me you're an expert without telling me you're an expert. Like, you're
Yeah.
just showcasing your deep knowledge about Berlin. And do you only work for clients based in Berlin?
Most of my clients come from Berlin at the moment. I
Yeah.
think like in the future this will change. Um, it's also something like I've been thinking about like other lists, like a list of like all of the partners that I work with, for example,
Mhm,
which could definitely be a lead magnet, or
mhm,
a list of different offsite locations, which could
mhm,
also definitely be a lead magnet. Um, in the end, I think it's like a strategic question too, like which lead magnets are going to get me like more of the work that I want to do.
mhm.
Um, and so like in that respect, like I've thought about like, oh, I could like create this like kind of location overview for different cities, and then in that way, like get to know like more people like in Munich and Hamburg, or maybe like other startup locations, for example, and Paris, London. Mm. So yeah, there's things I'm thinking, also like a way of getting bigger too.
But it sounds also like what you do is a really, it's really a relationship industry and business. So, like, obviously, if you're designing an event and coordinating service providers, you wanna feel good about the people you're working with, and that probably just takes some time.
Oh, totally. Like there's like an event, like a huge event or a large event can be stressful. It gets even more stressful, like if you have partners that you don't know if you can rely on.
Yeah,
So it's really great having good partners and ones that like I know I can trust.
yeah, yeah. Um, I wanted to ask you, since you work with so many businesses, and actually, this reminds me of a question I had back when you were talking about your, Facebook ads, which I'm actually just asking out of pure self-interest. Did you do those in English or German?
I set them up in both English. I didn't set them up. The
Okay,
person I was working with like set them up in both English and in German. Yeah.
okay, okay, so but pretty much because Berlin and your clients are international, do you do business mostly in English? Or I'm assuming you're probably pretty fluent in German because 'cause you've been here a long time and you studied here?
Yeah, I speak fluent German. All of the content that I share on LinkedIn is in English,
Mhm.
and yeah, mostly I am available in English. Like the outreach is in English. If I have clients that speak German, then yeah, then we switch to German and work in German.
What's the breakdown? Like, how much do you work in German and how much do you work in English?
Ooh, it's interesting. I mean, I think like when I look at like workplace experience, like just like the customer segment, it tends to be, how would I put it? Maybe in Berlin, probably like 60% international, 40% German.
Really?
So yeah, definitely. Workplace experience is a bit more German, I would say, than HR, which tends to
Mm,
be like a bit more international. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's not completely German. It's probably like
okay,
maybe, I don't know, 20, 30% in German, the rest in
okay.
English. Yeah.
And do you see that, like, as a the fact that you are comfortable and fluent in German, do you think you could do your job without that, like, strictly in English? Or Not
I
really.
think so, yeah. I mean, just like the clients that I have, like they also speak English, so it's
Hmm.
not a complete barrier.
Okay.
I think it's more something, it makes it easier for them to work with me, and
Hmm.
so it's a really nice thing to be able to provide something.
Yeah. Okay. And then I just wanted to get just your perspective on, I mean, the world is what it is right now. On the one hand, I hear all this like doom and gloom about the German economy and all this stuff. On the other hand, it just seems like there's all these companies coming here, all these academics and all these people coming from the States and stuff like that. Like what is the vibe and what is the market like in
Hmm.
from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to someone who started an events business like during a global pandemic,
Yeah.
so like I'm pretty optimistic. Um, I mean, personally, it's just like a core belief of mine. Like I believe there's like always opportunity out there. It's
Yeah.
a matter of like being open to it, looking
Mm,
for it, and yeah, adapting to it, I suppose. From what I've seen, I mean, but I have clients like yeah, kind of coming out of like a very busy period at the moment, and have like more projects that are lined up. So yeah, I haven't really seen like such a dip. I do know
mhm.
that like some companies, yeah, are trying to like save money, but I don't know. Like when you look across like tech, like there's always like pockets of like industries that are doing well, these kind of
Yeah.
like understanding like who's just like got funding, where's the money and
Mhm.
moving in that direction, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like down here, OpenAI, I think, is building a campus. Like
Yeah.
it's and I know it's now this way in Berlin, but getting an apartment is nuts or like trying to find one. I mean, to me, I guess it's also industry. Okay, automotive is obviously a big part of German industry, and that's been going through its own journey or problems or whatever. But I don't have any, like, I don't know, well, I guess here and there, but I don't see, like, massive layoffs or, this or that. Like, a building, just to put it in perspective, so here, obviously, BMW is, you can't throw a rock without hitting somebody that works at BMW, and, like, there's an apartment in our complex, and a family just moved out, and they were here for 2 years for BMW. It's a ground floor, it's maybe 95 square meters. It's furnished. It's going for, like, 4,000 warm a month. Like, that is and it's a corporate apartment, and it's just like, and you're happy to get that, you know? So, I just sort of feel like all the doom and gloom I'm hearing, I'm not seeing it in, like, I'm not seeing it like, there's all these apartments you can go rent, and, like, nobody has a job. So, I just wanted to see if it's the same up there.
Um, I mean, again, like, I think there's like always, I think it really depends like on what you focus on, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
it's not hard for me to like be like, I mean, at the moment, like I relocated to Potsdam, so a bit outside of the city,
Mhm.
with my partner. Um, and here, when I speak to folks, it's kind of like the same thing. It's kind of like, oh, like it's so hard to find like an apartment here. And this is like, it's somewhere, I don't know, maybe this is like, uh, controversial opinion, but like, I don't talk about like apartments as something that are hard to find. Um, I think it's a process. I
Mhm.
think that the process can be frustrating. Um, but like I'm really just like careful with myself, like in terms of like what do I call hard, you know? Because I think
Yeah.
like once you call something hard, like you just feel this like natural what do you say, reluctance to like want to like engage in the things that are actually going to like get you the result that you want to get. So I think it like
Mhm.
works against you. Um, and I don't want to like discount that a lot of people do have like a really difficult time, or it takes them a long time
Mhm.
to find like an apartment in Berlin, because like I know that's the case, I know like for me, like finding apartments, and I think this is also just something that like I do in business too. Like I just try to like break down the steps and like see it as a numbers game and like not
Mm.
something personal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like, yeah, looking for apartments, like sometimes like just saying like every day I'm gonna apply to like a certain number, and sometimes like applying to like the same apartment like day after day after day. Um, thinking of the numbers, like what are the inputs that I can put in? Looking to like see like more information. So like when I was looking for apartments, like I would try to be like the first one there so I could like chat up the,
Mm-hmm.
location manager and like ask them like, so what's your process? Like, are you using a tool to like, sort
Yeah.
people and you like manually going through this, you know? And then you find out it's like a tool that they use and it's just like, oh, so this really is like a numbers game,
Yeah.
like you're just like going through the applications that like fit the criteria and like you don't even look at my name. Like I'm just getting randomly selected. So it does make
Yeah.
sense to keep applying.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really that like connecting with people, like always like networking, like business and like, with
Yeah.
apartments, but really trying to like look for opportunity, like look for reasons why I should believe I'm going to get what I want to get. And then thinking, what can I do to like make it more likely that I will?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, mindset plus activity.
Oh, totally.
Action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. So that's a perfect segue into my last question for you, which is what is some advice you would give other aspiring Auslanders who want to start their own business or have started their own business in Germany?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, look, like if you've made the decision to like leave your country, like maybe, I don't know if it's North America, leave somewhere and like come to Germany, like I think you're already like a pretty like self-determined person. Like,
Mhm.
you've got a picture for your life and you're gonna make it happen. Like if you've got your visa in your hand, like that took some doing, I'm guessing. And so I think like for me with help like with business and then just like setting up a life here, having a clear vision of like what I want. Um, and don't listen to the people who say you can't have it,
Yeah.
like you really like need to believe, I think that it can happen for you because it can. Um, and like just put your blinders on and like
Mm.
take the steps and you'll get there sooner or later. Sometimes it takes a while longer than you think. Yeah. But keep going.
All right. Great. Well, Rachel, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It was really fantastic talking with you.
Yeah, it's been so much fun, Eleanor. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thanks for listening. You can find this and all other Germany Expat Business Show podcasts at thegermanylist.de. Bye.